Okay. So if you could just give us a bit of an introduction on who you are, when you were at school, and how you've got to where you are now from Crawley.
So my name is Adam Greaves-Smith. I started merchants. I actually went to the Mount first, and then I joined merchants when I was 6, I think, and I left in 2007. I stayed from that age all the way up to sixth form. I was a weird anomaly, so I started slightly early. So I actually finished up at six when I was 17 and went straight to uni when I was 17, which was an interesting one. I went to Aberdeen Uni straight from sixth form. Being 17, I think maybe I made a couple of confused decisions on what I wanted to do there. So I started studying um, politics and economics. Um, After about 6 months, I realised that it wasn't what I wanted to do, and it really wasn't for me. So I did a change then, and I transferred to Staffordshire Uni and took up audio engineering, which was something much more passionate for me. Studied that, and then I studied event management after that, and I worked for a good period on sound technician and audio engineering pieces. So I kind of worked in and out of the music industry. Been very lucky to work with some really cool bands and things in the past. Travelled a good amount. Wanting to get a bit more structured and kind of get back to home a little bit, I took a role as project manager for a site management company, who are based all around the UK. Again, still quite a good connection with the music side of things. Worked alongside a lot of big festivals and a lot of big international road shows, kind of sporting events and all kind of weird and wonderful pieces that involve huge outdoor anything, really, huge outdoor anything. And then coming up to 3 years ago now, I made a transition across to sport. I was lucky enough to get a role at Liverpool Football Club, working in the former players and the pre-season operations department. I did that for not so long, actually. I was there for about 10 months. And then I was lucky enough that I was pulled into an office one day and asked if I'd like to apply for a different role, which was the general manager for LFC Women's. And that's where I am now. So I'm coming up to 2 years now at the LFC Women's section as general manager. So general manager it's one of those roles that no one really understands exists in a football club. So it's everything that's kind of not related to being on the grass. So everything that's not related to actual football. So all of the boring side that nobody actually cares about within football. So everything from the kind of the marketing, the social media side of things, but I'm heavily focused on kind of logistics, business operations, and in and out of the commercial side, and basically supporting the football tech team and the players with pretty much everything that they can operate with. So support those heavily, and we've also got our women's academy as well, which I oversee. Which we've got 122 at last count, kids in our academy. So quite a huge and interesting and diverse role, definitely. But I've just gathered a very, I suppose, unusual and unique set of skills over the last 10 years now, which just happen to fit quite well into the sporting side and the music side. It quite interesting. So I kind of pass it all as kind of event operations. So everything I've always done, I would say, is kind of event operations, whether that's been festivals or gigs or kind of road shows or sports. It's all fundamentally the same business operation. You're just changing what the dynamics are, really. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's where I am.
makes sense. So, going back to your time at school, what did you do for your A levels, and how did you make the original choice to go and study what you started off with?
I, I knew I was going to get asked this question, and spent the last couple of days trying to remember because it's not that long ago, but it feels like a lifetime ago. But so I did for for my A levels, I did classical civilizations. I did English Lang and English Lit. Interestingly, I remember I did my English actually at the girls' school
Okay.
because we weren't set up to do. I don't remember the exact reason, but we weren't set up to do it at the lad side. So I think there was 3 or 4 of us that had to run down in between lessons. I always remember because we were always getting told off for being late, but we were never allowed to leave early. So we had to basically be running down to get to the lessons. But and obviously general studies as well as the fourth. I was always the classical civ side. I was always really passionate about. Still to this day, I'm really into kind of ancient Greek and ancient Roman pieces, and always enjoyed that, and always been a really big reader. Always kind of enjoyed fiction and kind of being absorbed in books, and so essentially all 3 of my A-level choices they were heavily evolved around language, really. Yeah, and I think it was just purely because I knew it was something that I was interested in, and I could be quite passionate about.
Yeah, makes sense. And how did you choose to go off to Aberdeen and study? Was it a bit of a...
It was interesting. So all the way through kind of my teen years, I was just adamant there was nothing else for me. I was going to be an RAF fighter pilot, and that was all it was. I didn't really have a plan B. It was just that or nothing. Sadly, I was asthmatic. I still am asthmatic, and so I would never have passed the medical. So I don't know why I'd convinced myself that it was a good idea. So when it kind of came to that, and I was quite young, so I was 17 when I went to uni. So I think I needed to find something that I thought I'd enjoy. At the time, politics and economics, I thought would be something I could really get involved with, and I'm really enjoying it. So I went off to Aberdeen to do that. I said a little bit earlier, it wasn't for me, which is, sometimes you have to admit, and I was not enjoying it as much as I should have, and I was probably becoming a little bit bored with things, and so then I thought, well, what do I do to change and find something I'm really passionate about, which was where the kind of sound technician and audio engineering side came from. So I transferred across to Staffordshire University, did my FDeng in audio engineering, and then whilst I was doing that, I realised that it was the operational side that I was really enjoying in that. It's the same old tale of when you find something you're passionate about, it's sometimes then when you've got your head staring at it every day, you maybe lose that passion a little bit. Whereas I got really focused on the operational side. I really enjoyed it. So then I went back and did my BA in event management, and kind of parceled the 2 together there, and used both together. So I had that understanding of kind of everything to do with sound, focus more on kind of the management side of that, and the building it, and the business operational side of things, which is then kind of how I've remained then ever since, really. I still enjoy doing bits and pieces with audio. Still absolutely adore ripping speakers apart and staring at them, but it's something that I didn't enjoy as much doing as a job. I didn't enjoy as much having to go out and do it all the time, whereas the operational side is something I still love to this day, is just making things happen. It's fun.
Yeah. And you've obviously moved around through quite a few different types of jobs. How did that come about? Have you got a really good network, or has it just been opportunities as they've come up, or how have you been able to do that?
Little bit of both. I'm always one to go for opportunities when they come. I think whenever you find an opportunity, I think your gut tells you whether it's the right decision or not. And I've always been one for following my gut as much as possible on things like that. Not 100% sure how I ended up in sports. It just kind of happened. Like I said, I do have quite an unusual skill set, which I've kind of developed across a few different industries, but it just happened to fit quite well in huge international football, I guess. Contacts, networking is so important, because, like I said, you've got to take every opportunity as it comes, and if you're not putting yourself out there and you're not really involving yourself and you're not networking as much as possible, then you don't get the opportunity to kind of grasp those things as much. So networking hugely important. I've never burned bridges, and never kind of let things go. Always do favours where possible, because you never know when you're going to have to call a professional favour back up, which is a lot. It's definitely a lot, especially in kind of creative and sporting industries. It's quite an important thing. So I still speak to people now that I have nothing to do with from a professional environment, but still hold that contact with, and made a lot of friends throughout my career as well, which is always good. But people with unique little skill sets of their own, which is always helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is there's probably got a two-pronged answer to this one. What is a day like at the moment? So what's a day like at the moment, and what's a day like normally when we're not all stuck, whatever,
Yeah.
Not operating normally.
Not operating as normal, yes. And things are obviously quite unusual at the moment with regards to COVID. So we're fully gearing up now to return in the next 2-3 weeks.
Great.
So everything currently is very focused on the health and safety side of things, logistics and operations, not so much the kind of business and the strategy and the development side. So everything at the minute is very much head stuck in Zoom calls, head stuck in Teams calls, developing plans, redeveloping plans, kind of getting ready for ticking all of the safety boxes really, with obviously Government England advice, and we're regulated by the FA as well, so the Football Association advice. My role at the moment is essentially structuring that for our part of the club. So that the COVID officer is how it's titled within the FA organisation. So basically ensuring everything from kit to logistics is as accurate and as safe as it can be. Like I said, it's all the really boring side of football. On a normal day outside of COVID, it is really, really varied. So it is very much a support network for the tech team, so that the tech team can do everything they need to do. So the manager and the coaching staff can do everything they need to do on the grass every day. I mean, it's an everyman job, 100%. We have quite a small operational unit. We do things above and beyond every day. My staff are absolutely exceptional in what they do. But everything from kit, from management, from the organisation, to when the kit comes through, to organise and making sure the players have got all of their kit washed and prepped, to when we've got match days, making sure that all of the logistics and all the health and safety is done for match days. And then it varies even further to being involved with the commercial side of things and helping to bring in better sponsorships, to the operational management of huge events. For example, like we had a big game at Anfield at the November now last season. Pre-season tours and kind of the operational elements of that. A little bit of everything. Everything that a club needs to operate. So everything from not being on the grass, everything that it takes to actually operate as a business and as a function, but doesn't involve kicking a football or knowing how to kick a football. Because interestingly, I'm a terrible footballer.
That was going to be one of my questions. Do you play?
Awful. Awful.
Did you play any sport at school, or were you more CCF?
No, I was more head in a book and head in a computer, I think, at school than I was sporting. I've always been really, really keen on sports. When I went to uni, I started playing lacrosse, which is something that I couldn't do at Merchants at the time. But I started playing lacrosse and really, really enjoyed that. So always dabbled in football and played it for fun, no other reasoning. Something I've always been passionate about, and I'm very lucky that I worked for the club I've supported since I was a kid, which is fun. But yeah, no, awful. You don't want me on your team.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. And do you have dates for the stuff? So you mentioned it might be 2 to 3 weeks. Are you working to fix dates? Do you have a whole schedule now, or is it still uncertain?
We do. We've got the first initial 3-week scheduling built already. We're just working now on what those dates look like to return. So obviously there's a much huger piece on kind of the environmental health and the occupational health side of things as well. And one thing we have to make sure of, and it's my responsibility to make sure that when the players come back in the environment, everything's completely safe for them.
Yeah.
And as I'm sure you can imagine, it's so many moving parts. We are looking to return end of June. And we're currently in discussions now with our league, so the FA, just on exactly how that looks and when we can return. So sometime between very end of June and very start of July, we'll be back in I think we're all chomping at the bit, I think, to get back
Get
into the
going.
environment, stop staring at walls at home and out like our teams.
Presumably that'll be no spectators, just the games.
Yeah, yeah. So our season's due to start September again. Obviously, a lot can change before then, but we are anticipating that for the majority of the start of season, it will be behind closed doors games. So it will be tech team, sports staff, players from both from home team and opposition, and reduce travel, and then reducing visitors to the environment, etc. And no one sat in the seats, which will be an unusual one, but.
Yeah. So strategically, I mean, I get, everyone's having to review their strategies coming out of this whole setup. And I know when we've spoken in the past, one of your big focuses has been on getting more people in to watch the games and more involvement in the women's game. So that's obviously going to be very difficult without spectators. So is there, are you having to try and work on plans for?
We are. It's a shame because it's such an amazing time for women's football at the minute. So women's football has grown rapidly over the last 5 years, and obviously after the World Cup last year as well, the Women's World Cup, it's grown very, very, very fast. And a lot of plans and a lot of building in the background on further developing that and helping. And obviously us as a club are very focused on ensuring that we're always part of that strategy and always part of that growth forward. COVID piece obviously is an international pandemic. It's an awful thing, and it's unfortunately for us as well. It's a speed bump in the road of developing that game and redeveloping us as a squad as well. So we came in at a kind of rebuild stage for the women's team, and at the moment it's obviously just hit a little hiccup along the route, but is the beauty of the game, I suppose.
Things will get themselves sorted out eventually.
They will. They will. Things are all very strange and unusual now, but we'll develop and we'll return in a specific manner. We're very lucky that we can return and that football will continue. Football is a never-ending beast that people will always want to watch and we'll always have the fans. So we're lucky in that concept. And yeah, it'll be unusual, and then it'll be unusual again 6 months down the line when we're trying to reverse back to what used to be normality, but we'll have its differences. Yeah, and the world in general, not just football, everything. I think so much has been learned from this. I think people have realised there are loads of different ways to operate. There's loads of different ways to work and do business. Loads of different ways to study and be educated. So it's I think it's going to be a couple of years of really quite significant changes and people redeveloping a different way of life, I think.
What have been so you've obviously had quite a lot of different brilliant experiences, sort of travel and all the rest of it. So what would be your highlights so far?
That's a good question. I've been very lucky that I've travelled and I've worked all over the world over the last 10 years, which is really exciting. Travel for me has always been something I've been really passionate about as well. So and music and sport are two things I'm very, very passionate about. So I'm very lucky that I've been able to incorporate that and do all of them, which is which is amazing. I've been lucky enough, and I won't go into really serious detail. I've been lucky enough that I've worked with a couple of very, very, very successful, huge bands, which, to be honest, no one on this call will know, but your mums and dads will. But I've been lucky enough to work with who I'm massive fans of as well, which is good. So I've managed to travel the world with a few really, really cool organisations, and to be honest, the sports side of things has been just a whirlwind, but it's been really, really exciting. Especially on the women's section. So we're doing really amazing stuff. So we took the women's team on their first huge international tour last year, which I helped lead from inception all the way through to when I was jet lagged, lying on the sofa, unable to move on the day we got back. So it's but it was an historic moment to take us out there, and that was really exciting. So that there's a couple of I have like a kind of memory wall on the back of my corridor and on the staircase, and there's a few very specific pictures on there, and interestingly, quite a lot of them are focused around what we've done with the women's team. Yeah. And one of them is the LFC women's branded bus when we landed the plane, when the players got off the plane, and the LFC branded bus, women's branded bus, was sat there on the runway. That was quite a cool moment. And I've been very lucky that I've stood in the tunnel and watched a lot of football at Anfield. But to do it last November when it was the women's team walking out and there was 26,000 spectators there screaming and the noise was just unbelievable, which is still quite new and still quite unusual for women's top flight football.
Yeah.
And that was quite a goosebumpy moment. And I took a quick cheeky picture on my phone whilst I was there, obviously trying to make sure everything's running right and trying to make sure everything's happening. I got a quick photo, which just turned out to be quite a good photograph, and it's on my wall, and it's something which is good to look at when you're having a challenging day and you think, oh, where's it all leading to? And that was a goosebump moment.
Yeah,
definitely.
That was awful. We've got a couple of girls on the call actually. So any would you say to any girls who might be thinking about a career in football, or the state of women's football?
It's growing so rapidly, and it's such an exciting time for everything. There's so much more commercial investment. There's so much more international recognition around the world. Leagues are growing and growing and growing constantly. So it's coming to a stage now where it is a completely feasible career choice. 5 years ago, it was a little bit different, and it was obviously you should only ever go into football if you're passionate. It's not an everyday job. It's its own world, and it's unique in everything it does. But if it is something you're incredibly passionate about, definitely there's a future in it. And I think it's only going to keep growing. It's exciting, very exciting times for women's sport in general, but women's football at the minute is just on its own, just incredible trajectory.
Great. And have you got any? You've got plenty of career left. So have you got any aspirations for what you'd like to achieve in future? Just kind of see what happens.
Yeah, no, I am a firm believer in just grasping opportunities and seizing them by the hand. And like I said earlier, I think your gut tells you a lot as you're moving through things. But I think through a career, it's important as well. And I always try never to take myself too seriously. Never try to stress or worry about decisions too much. I do see myself remaining in football for quite a long time. I think if I left sports, it would only be to return to kind of operational touring on a music perspective. I think I've definitely found the two areas that I'm most fond of, and like I said, they link quite interestingly. The similarities are much more than you'd probably realise. But yeah, no, football specifically, I think is for me for a good long while. Yeah. Great,
fantastic. If anyone has any questions, now would be a great time to pop them in the chat box. I always ask because I'm always interested, just best memories of school, favourite teachers, any hilarious japes you got up to?
Well, that's a good question. CCF was always my fondest memories. I was in the RAF CCF.
Yeah.
Loved it. Mr. Stanley, who is still about.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
So Mr. Stanley at Speechley, yeah, Mr. Stanley, who was also the contingent commander for the RAF as well, which I think he still is, yeah.
Still is, yeah.
I remember, I don't even know if I should say this. Probably one of my funniest memories was Mr. Stanley hiding in a cupboard.
I've heard such stories before.
We were all sat in the classroom, just thinking he's late. Where is he? About 5 minutes later, burst out of the cupboard door. It was always a good one. But yeah, no, I've got a lot of great memories. But Mr. Lally, my classic Civ all the way through was great and really inspirational. But yeah, you got a good bunch of teachers down there, and it's amazing to see as well actually how many are still about from over a decade ago now when I left. Yeah,
from your time, yeah. So we've got a question. Do LFC offer any placements for students at uni? If that would be work placements or sporting ones, but either or.
Yeah, no, we do. Yeah, so LFC in general does do internships and placements. The women's section also do take internships and placements. Within the football specific environment, it's much more the kind of analytical and the performance coaching side of things, because it's a part of the university degree that they have to do a placement within a professional environment. Within the business side of things, which is huge at a club like Liverpool, any Premier League club has got a massive organisation behind it. But yeah, there's a lot of opportunities. there's a lot of opportunities. Liverpool is linked, obviously has a lot of links with major universities, but John Moores and Liverpool obviously they have really good connections with as well.
Yeah. And how do they, are they usually advertised? How do you find out about this?
Yeah, I think through job fairs within the universities as well, they're advertised. Always keep an eye on the websites and things, and again, always just keep your contacts.
Mm-hmm.
Network is key in any business environment, and that's what football is. It's business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you go to work normally?
Where do I go to work? So I spend most of my time at our first team training base, which is at the campus over in Wallasey, which we share interestingly with Tranmere Rovers. I also spend a lot of time in our Chapel Street offices, which are in the city centre, just off Old Hall Street in Liverpool. And then dotting around, we spend a lot of time on coaches travelling. We spend a lot of time, obviously, kind of working quite close in the office, etc. as well. But yeah, there's a lot of travel about. You learn to adapt, and your laptop becomes your best friend.
And how have you found this period of extended staying at home?
The dogs loved it.
Lots of walks.
The dogs definitely loved it more than I have. I've always been very used to being out and being away and always on the move and working in weird and wonderful environments or jumping on and off planes and buses and all sorts. So to suddenly just be sat for 3 months, it's a bit much. I'm used to it now. I'm definitely looking forward to going back and getting back into the environment properly. Miss the players, miss the work, miss being busy. Well, I'll rephrase that. I'm still incredibly busy, but miss being on the.
I know what you mean.
Miss being running around as opposed to sat. Yeah. But it's for the greater good. It's been fine. Thankfully, I've got Netflix and a lot of books and a lot of work to keep me busy. So and I'm a very naughty beagle.
Well, hopefully we're just starting to come out of it. We've got schools just been starting to open up this week, so it does feel a bit like we're just starting to edge back into the real world. So
creep back into a bit of normality, slowly but surely.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Are there any more questions? Anyone else wants to pop anything in the box? Otherwise, we'll kind of wrap it up. You can always hang on if you want to stick on your cameras and sound and actually ask yourself. You're very welcome to. Just give it a minute or two, see if anyone has anything. We're filming for a virtual open day all week this week because we obviously can't do real open days. So I was supervising the filming yesterday, so I got to be in school. It was very exciting.
Oh wow!
Went out.
Lucky. Very lucky.
I know. Amazing. I can't see anything coming through. So, would you be happy? I mean, if anyone asks, would you be happy for me to put them in touch with you?
100%. Yeah. Of course, you've got all my details. Yeah, no, definitely. If anyone's got any queries or questions or anything, just definitely ping it to. And I'm more than happy to get back to you.
Well, and hopefully, all being well, at the moment is still not yet cancelled. We have a big dinner planned at Anfield at the end of the year for the 400th anniversary. So hopefully,
fingers crossed. Yeah.
We're kind of hanging out that one might just make it in, but it's hard to tell at the moment.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, I've had a lot of friends and family who've had weddings cancelled and all sorts. It's been a difficult time for everyone, but it's we're getting there slowly but surely.
Great. Oh, thank you so much for your time this morning. Really appreciate it. And,
actual football will be back soon, and hopefully we'll see some of you guys down there as well.
Yeah, definitely. Great. Well, have a wonderful rest of the day.